Hey, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Ridge Racer 7 on the PlayStation 3. Unfortunately, due to the amazing piracy avoidance techniques, I can't even talk today. Sony's taken to with the PlayStation 3, you only can record with component cable, so even though this game runs natively at 1080p, I had to record at 720p because I think 1080i is as high as you could record, and I don't think that this game's compatible with that resolution. So that arcade game was Xevious. That's a callback to the original Ridge Racer, and I think Ridge Racer 6 actually had Pac-Man. I think Ridge Racer 6 actually had Galaga or Galaxian. I think the other games had stuff too. R4 didn't, but R4 came with the first Ridge Racer at 60 frames per second. So that totally made up for it. So when I did my R4 video, a lot of you guys suggested that I should play Ridge Racer 6 and Ridge Racer Unbounded, which were really awesome. And then I went to Wikipedia and I saw that there's a Ridge Racer 7 too, and I went to all my local game shops and I couldn't find any of those games, so I actually had to order a game. So I had to make a choice between Ridge Racer 6 or 7 because I wanted a pure Ridge Racer experience where Unbounded you actually drive through stuff. And based on Digital Foundry's little overview of Ridge Racer 7 versus Ridge Racer 6, apparently 7 is a more refined version of 6 with extra bells and whistles and extra stuff in it. I still want to get 6 for the Xbox 360. It's an Xbox 360 exclusive, but based on the things that I read, beside of course like fanboys, you know, you really can't really trust what they say because, you know, they might be biased. So Digital Foundry tends to be unbiased, and they felt that Ridge Racer 7 was the best game. And I was skeptical about future Ridge Racer games because even though I liked Ridge Racer 5, which I tend on revisiting, I didn't like it quite as much as Ridge Racer 4, and I wasn't really aware that there were like mainline games in the series of the numeric Ridge Racer games. I thought everything after 4 was pretty much an offshoot. So, I mean after 5, because I did own 5. Everything in 5 felt kind of rushed, was an offshoot. So I wasn't sure. This was an early PlayStation 3 game. I can't remember if it was a launch title or not. If you guys want me to do research and have perfect sound, I'm sorry, unless you want to donate more stuff, but I really don't want your donations. And you know, you probably could watch somebody else's video with better production values because I kind of like the grittiness of my videos, to be honest with you. So I picked this. This is one of the few games on the PlayStation 3 that actually runs at native 1080p at 60 frames per second, which was one of the big marketing ploys of the PlayStation 3 at the time, because that was one of the things that it was capable of doing at the time. The original Xbox 360 did not have an HDMI port on it, and the highest resolution that you could get to was 1080i. Most TVs did not support 1080p. That was a big thing. That was kind of like what HDR is today, where like that's the new feature that systems are starting to adopt. It was kind of the same thing with 1080p. So Sony originally promised all these native 1080p games, and for the most part you didn't get that. Most of the games on PlayStation 3 run at 720p or below. So I was quite impressed with this game just on a technical standpoint, technical point of view, where it actually runs nice and looks very custom. Most early PlayStation games didn't look so hot. Like the Xbox 360, especially if there was a port, pretty much destroyed the PlayStation 3 unless it wasn't exclusive as far as graphics go with multi-plats. So And a good rule of thumb, and I've said this in the past, is that if it spells out like PS3 on the side of the box versus saying PlayStation 3, usually the PS3 games are pretty much on par with the Xbox 360. But if you happen to get a game that's also on a 360 that says PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360 is usually a superior port by far. So this was actually a PlayStation 3 game, but this is Ridge Racer 7 and there's Ridge Racer 6. I made the choice to get 7. I'm interested in getting 6 and playing Unbounded, and I also want to revisit some of the older games. I have a feeling those are going to be harder to get, but I ordered this and I'm quite happy with it. This is a lot easier than at least from the beginning, because when I recorded this is probably the second or third time I played the game, and I was surprised about the drifting mechanics. Also different in this one is you have nitro, and like in the Need for Speed games, at least the more recent ones, when you drift you get more nitro, and in this game actually really, well, I guess most games that have nitro actually depend on you using your nitro, but the drifting mechanic on this game is pretty crazy and unrealistic, but it's fun. It's definitely an arcade game. It knows what it is. It is quite easy when you first start out. I don't know how much more difficult this game gets, but it's still really fun to practice like that. The drifting mechanic, I think there's more car manufacturers, so maybe that changes with the cars, like in Ridge Racer Type 4, depending on the manufacturer that you got, the cars made the game more difficult, whereas there's some other manufacturers that the drifting is more exaggerated, where your car can turn completely around. I forgot what manufacturer this was, but this car drifted quite well, and it seems to realign itself, and drifting's pretty much easy in this game. You rarely ever have to use the brakes. I think that's for the cars that start going out of control like this. All you have to do is hold the gas down, and once you reach a decent amount of speed, all you do is let go of the gas, hold the analog stick in the direction you want to go to, and hit the gas again, and basically your cars start drifting. But the cars that drift more aggressively, you kind of have to fight the drift a little bit to kind of steer your car into the right direction. But I picked the easier car, so I didn't do completely terrible during this video like I did on that Ridge Racer Type 4 video that was I sound like a zombie in the video because I was functioning on very low sleep and I just got off of work. It was pretty bad, but I really wanted to make a video at the time. The cars look really nice and slick. I really like the look of this game. This game looks quite nice for an early even a mid-cycle PlayStation game. I mean, it's not going to blow Uncharted out of the water, but the fact that this is running at native 1080p at 60 frames per second, it's quite impressive. A lot of games upscale to 1080p and it's not the same thing. This is native, so that's pretty good. Unfortunately, like I said, I had to downgrade to 720p, so it's not gonna look as vibrant and as sharp as it typically does when you play it. So keep that in mind, that the game's gonna look a lot sharper, and to me at least more vibrant. I did try to add some sharpness, and I changed the brightness and contrast to try to emulate a little bit of what it looks like, but with YouTube's compression and stuff like that, I don't know how well the results are going to look once it finally goes through YouTube, once the video file's finally made. But yeah, I was really impressed. This is probably my favorite Ridge Racer game after Ridge Racer Type 4, and maybe if I play this more, this might beat out Ridge Racer Type 4. Thank you to all of you who commented and suggested and brought some of these Ridge Racer games that I wasn't aware of to my attention, so I went on Wikipedia and looked it up. Offhand, Vinny Corleone 62 suggested Ridge Racer 6, which made me look it up, how I found out about Ridge Racer 7. I hope to get Ridge Racer 6 at some point, but I had to make a choice, and I just tried to pick the one that sounded like it had the most bang for its buck, and ironically this one did it. I would have never imagined an old PlayStation game functioning and being more refined than an Xbox 360 game. It's quite rare, but I mean, it was 6, and so they obviously had to add new stuff to it, but like I figured even if it wasn't a PlayStation 3 exclusive, like at the point in time that this came out, it would have been downgraded. Even like exclusives like the first Resistance Fall of Man has like a blurry look to it that just doesn't quite look as nice as a lot of the stuff on the Xbox 360. The PlayStation 3 games always tend to have like this softer, almost blurrier look because of the anti-aliasing they use, and a lot of times the PlayStation 3 games use a lower resolution. PlayStation 3 seems to be better at doing more geometry and things to do with physics and stuff like that, and some post-processing effects, but all in all, I think the Xbox 360, when it comes to multi-platform, even though this isn't one, but like I said, it uses a lot of assets from Ridge Racer 6. I was about to call it Type 6 because the Type 4 is such a weird name for a game. Maybe it makes sense if you're from Japan, I don't know, because you know sometimes they got weird name titles for some of these games. But I will say this game is significantly easier, at least with this car, and the graphics do look quite nice. So it controls great. I'm really curious to go back and play some of these older Ridge Racer games. I think the last one came out on the 3DS. I'm not too concerned about playing Ridge Racer on the 3DS, and obviously I couldn't make a video of it anyway without it looking like crap. If you remember the Dragon Quest game I did on the 3DS, I'm sure it was mind-blowingly amazing. But yeah, I'm really happy with this purchase, and I think I only paid $8. Ironically, it said acceptable, but I know the Blu-ray discs typically don't scratch, so the disc was in mint condition, and I got an instruction manual that was in good condition. Ironically, the only thing that was missing was like the sleeve that goes like in that case, which is weird. Out of all things, you would think the book would be missing first, but no, the sleeve was missing. But if I was a collector or whatever, I mean, well, if I was a collector, I'd probably need it in mint condition, but if I really wanted to, I could just print that out and put it into the case. But I really just wanted to play this game, and for like $8, and I'm sure you can get it even cheaper for $8 or less, you can have this fantastic racing game. And there's not a lot of racing games with this amount of arcade feel. They'll have racing games with arcade components, like for instance gosh, I can't think of the name of a Drive Club. That's the name of it. That's like an arcade racing game with arcade physics to a certain degree, but it also has realism, which I don't mind. But there's not a lot of arcade games that feel like Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer really feels like its own thing, and doing a little bit of research, which I typically don't do, but I wanted to, if I was gonna pick one Ridge Racer game, and I really wanted to make a video of it too as well, so I wanted to get the one that sounded the most fun and the best sounding one that I could get. That was, I want to get Unbounded. Unbounded looks really cool, but I wanted to get a regular Ridge Racer game because Unbounded's a little bit different, where you're crashing in through stuff. It's kind of disappointing they don't have the girl that's in the front, because I was really disappointed with the when they changed the girl in 5, but apparently judging from the videos I've seen of 6, they brought her back and she's obviously in this one, but you never see her with the flag. I apologize about the dog. She's barking outside. Of course, everything happens when I'm trying to record a video, but that's life, I guess. Maybe if I had a studio or whatever, it'd be better, but you know, I'm happy with my guerrilla filmmaking style, I guess. So yeah, I would definitely recommend picking up this game. I think it's a good time, and I was pleasantly surprised. I can't wait to eventually play Ridge Racer 6. I hope there's some exclusive stuff in that game besides being able to play Pac-Man, but I'll see if I'm able to get it. And I know a lot of people, when I said that this was my favorite Ridge Racer game, a lot of people suggested Rage Racer, which I did play back in the day, but I don't remember much about it, and I wasn't really familiar with Ridge Racer games. I think I played it in the first one in the arcade, and that was about it, but that might have been Virtual Racing. I don't know. It's kind of fuzzy. I was probably like 9 or 10 when Ridge Racer was in the arcade, as well as Virtual Racing, and Virtual Racing actually was a whole different experience in the arcade, because I remember playing it on the Sega Genesis and then playing it in the arcade, and it just looked so much better in the arcade. It wasn't even funny. The Sega Genesis game was quite fun, I have to say. But yeah, I kind of always felt like the Ridge Racer game, I always based it on 5. The Ridge Racer games kind of went downhill, and then they went into unique directions. They had like Ridge Racer Evolution, I think, where you actually played as the girl from Ridge Racer Type 4, and I think that actually had real cars in it, like real manufacturers and stuff like that in it, and it might have took a more, I don't know if it took a more realistic route. I think that's what I remember reading. It's all fuzzy, but I want to find these older Ridge Racer games if I can, if they're reasonable. This one was totally reasonable and totally worth it, and money well spent, and I'm glad that there's more Ridge Racer games out there that are newer that I can enjoy, because going back and playing Ridge Racer Type 4, as nice as it looks for a PS1 game, it does look quite dated, and this was nice. And just take my word for it, it looks way better than it's probably going to look on this video. I know seeing it on the TV at 720p when I had to use the component cables, it looked like a downgrade, but at 1080, native 1080p at 60 frames per second, it looks great. But I'll upscale it to 1080p and see how well it is. Hopefully I didn't oversaturate anything, but you just have to take my word for it, or look at other people's videos that maybe have a workaround to get the HDMI native 1080p at 60 frames per second. But most of the videos you'll find on this game are quite old. This is probably going to be one of the few contemporary videos covering this game, because this game is like our early PlayStation 3 game, if not a launch game. Like I said, I don't really remember. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Thank you for putting up with the dog and whatever other background sound there is, like the AC and stuff like that. I appreciate you sticking with my channel, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to guerrilla video game filmmaking. Not PewDiePie, I'm sorry. Alright, thank you so much. Take care. I hope to talk to you on the next video. Thank you for your support, and what I mean by support is the thumbs up in the comment section and taking your time to watch my video. It legitimately means a lot to me. Alright, I'll talk to you people on the next video. Take care. Bye.